What's up, everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're going to be playing more of the Irresistible Traction Seasonal Event, which is an alternate game mode in which whenever we or our opponents play a non-spying unit, if that unit has the same strength as an opposing unit, it will steal that unit. And today we're going to be playing everyone's favorite faction, Skellige. So let's give the deck a look. So today we're going to be playing a Skellige deck using the Onslaught leader ability, which I think may actually be the strongest leader ability in this seasonal event, because every other turn we will deal 1 damage, and this will give us a lot of control over just how much strength our opponent's units have, making it easier for us to swipe those units. Other than that, the general theme of this deck is to play a bunch of cards with really high base strength, making it very difficult for our opponents to steal them, and perhaps even stealing some of our opponent's cards that have already been boosted. So I'll flip through the deck here and give an explanation for some of the cards that require some explanation. One thing to note is that we do have Devotion in this deck, which will be significant for at least some of the cards, and Arnaghad is an interesting one because when we play it when we have 4 or fewer cards in our hand, whenever our opponent plays a card, Arnaghad will deal damage to that card, and then that card will deal damage to Arnaghad, which will likely either destroy or severely damage whichever card they play. Arnaghad will of course take damage in the process, but we have a way of addressing that concern. And that way is by playing Sukrus next to Arnaghad, because this will prevent Arnaghad from taking damage in this case, turn it into a way of destroying just about every card that our opponent plays without taking damage ourselves. Time is a very interesting card for this seasonal event. It works somewhat similarly to how Ivar Evil Eye worked for our previous Nilfgaard decks. It will swap power with the power of any damage unit, so if there's a damage unit that has the same amount of strength as one of our opponent's units, then we can swipe that card from our opponent, and also potentially give our opponent a 1-strength card that they really don't want to have. Lastly, we have the Craite Warrior, which is worth noting because we actually don't want to play this card from our hand. We ideally want to play it from our graveyard. We have 1 or 2 ways of discarding cards from our hand, but not a ton, so for the most part, we may just want to keep this buried in our deck and never actually play it. So there's a look at the deck. Overall, it is extremely simple. The idea is just play strong cards and hopefully steal strong cards from our opponent, and that's about it. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so we'll play Northern Realms here, and they will go first. Okay, so I think we probably want to get rid of the Craite Warrior here. Don't love having it in our hand. Certainly not to start things off with. And then War of Clans is one of the ways in which to play that card from our graveyard, if it is in our graveyard, but that's something that is unlikely to happen in round 1, so I think we probably do want to dump you as well. And Donamir is possibly their biggest card here, because one thing that happens with Northern Realms is, generally speaking, they start off as weak units, but they will build up a lot over time, so I think this is potentially a very good matchup for us, because we can just steal that card right now, with either Disgraced Brawler or, yeah, let's play a Disgraced Brawler. And we'll just yoink that. Don't mind if I do. Okay, so they're going no Nearmancy, but I don't think they're going to be able to steal any of these cards here. I don't know if they have anything that has 7 base strength at this point. So these should be fairly safe. Well, unless if you go Amphibious Assault, that will give cards a boost, which might be enough to make it happen. Then again, we could swipe it back with another 7 strength card. And yes, that will be 7 strength. And it does boost that up to 8, but even that's not the end of the world, because I think what we do here is we take your Temerian Drummer with our second Disgraced Brawler, and then next turn, we can either go Gerd or Hemdall to take the Disgraced Brawler, assuming you don't boost it even further, or alternatively, we could even use Onslaught to damage the Disgraced Brawler in order to seal that one. I think we actually would prefer to take Temerian Drummer, because it does actually have some additional skills. So we'll take it. Unfortunately, it does end up in the row that's empty. But we actually may not use Onslaught all that often because we don't care that much about dealing damage with it. We actually care more about setting up the steal, and our opponent realizes there's no way they can handle this. Okay, so we will go against Nilfgaard here, and they will go first. And as for what we're starting out with here, I think we probably do want to drop the Craite Warrior and War of Clans. Those are both cards that we ideally would save for later rounds. And we'll go into a different War of Clans. So, less than ideal there, but to pick up Heim is certainly nice. And they'll play, a Kingslayer. Okay, to banish some cards from our deck, we do have several cards that will draw cards from our deck, so that is a little bit concerning. Like Blood Eagle, we'd want to perhaps get out there on the early side if you are going to try to deplete our deck significantly, which I think is likely. What else, though, might we want to lead off with here? We actually don't have a 4-strength card, strangely enough, so we can't immediately steal this. What if we played a card that we thought was high enough up there that we are doubtful you could steal it? I think that is probably the way we go in that case. Let's go with Covenant of Seal. So I think at 7, you're not going to be able to catch it. And then Arnaghad is probably something we want to end up saving for a little bit later in the round. Okay, you'll play a 3-strength card, so no stealing, but again, you're messing with our deck and moving stuff into our graveyard, and even using your leader ability very early at that. Do some damage. It will get Covenant of Steel low. It will regain armor. However, at this stage, it is low enough that it is definitely stealable. Okay, so that is a little bit concerning, and we might lose Covenant of Steel here. I mean, we don't really need it as a defender, besides maybe to block Arnaghad plus Sukrus. We'd like to be able to set that up later on. But if you take it, I mean, yeah, we wouldn't be able to target as many things with Gigascropian Decoction or War of Clans. So, any particular warriors we'd like to play from our deck before they say all get destroyed? Because we could perhaps use it to play an Craite Raiders, which is 4 strength, and therefore would steal the Kingslayer. Then maybe we just throw away our Onslaught at you, because there's no other manipulation we need to do to, well, we could even destroy you. And then play you. Swipe you. And get the armor back. Okay, Oneiromancy means you could very well play either a 4 or 3 base strength card if you really wanted to. Going with 2 strength, but this card will allow you to play a tactic from your deck. So you're not going to steal anything immediately, but what comes next is you're actually going to create a copy of Covenant of Steel. Oh, actually, no, the armor will stop you. Oh, you forgot about the armor. You forgot about the armor. Okay, so, interesting. We don't have any 2-strength cards. We're just playing a bunch of low-strength cards, so we can't steal you. Not that we particularly want to. We could destroy you, the Craite Raiders. However, we'd like to save this ability for later on, when there is a card we actually want to damage so that we can set up the steal. So I think in that case, what do we want to go for? Maybe we even start getting Sukrus out here. It's a little bit risky to play him on the early side, because if you do have any 6-strength cards, that you could swipe him, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So maybe if we're just trying to play some lower risk cards, lower reward cards, and we'll throw down a Tuirseach Invader. And at 5 strength, it could definitely get stolen. But I think if it happens, we'll live with it. Okay, so you will steal something with the Kingslayer, and you will continue to make our deck smaller. I think I'm fine with you destroying War of Clans. And you got Kingslayer back, which is probably fine, because Craite Raiders did still have some damage to use. So I think now, it's still a little early to play Sukrus. However, I'm wary of Covenant of Steel hanging around with just 1 strength and 1 armor. I mean, this will go up to 2 at the end of this turn, but just in case they want to deal any damage. I don't think we have any way to steal any Kingslayers back right now anyway, so I think we settle for this. And we may just throw our Onslaught out here for the sake of doing a little bit of damage to you. And you have a 2, 3, 4 strength card now, so we have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to being able to steal stuff. But for the most part, we're looking for you to play bigger cards, because we have a bunch of big cards. So now, oh, you are going to steal Tuirseach Invader. And let's see. It's one turn early for Arnaghad, so we'd rather not go that route just yet. And Heim is not terribly helpful either. That's not going to result in us stealing anything. If we were to, well, if we were to use it on Covenant of Steel, I mean, we could get a little bit of strength from Kingslayer, but we're not stealing anything in the process from that either, so I don't love that. We could deal 2 damage and trigger Deathblow in War Clans, but Gerd, I don't believe, is going to be playable, because he's certainly not a 4 provision cost card. So this is a little bit trickier. We might even go with Hemdall. It's a little bit early to make this happen, but we'll play it on this row, deal a little bit of damage. Okay. And, ooh, they do have a 7 base strength card, which is interesting, because we are probably going to play Arnaghad next turn, which means we will proceed to steal you. And I'm thinking that is likely to be the last thing we'll want to do in this round, because this is going to be a pretty significant wall for them to try to break through. They're going to take 7 damage whenever they play a card. Arnaghad's not going to take any damage. They can't target him, because we have Covenant of Steel blocking him. So let's just throw out a little bit of damage here, and is it going to matter much who we hit? Let's just make it so there's a 3 strength card in case for some reason we want to ever steal a 3 strength card. We might also want to use on Craite Raiders' ability here as well, in which case, just hit someone. I don't think it matters much. And they will play our Delirium that they stole from us. We'll split some damage across this row, but it's certainly not enough for them to catch us, at least not yet. They are down a card already, and they would need to play at least one more to catch us, so it is tempting to pass here, especially because we still have this combo working in our favor for Arnaghad plus Sukrus. The problem here is that after doing that damage, we now have several cards that are much more stealable than they were before. Thinking Sukrus is potentially the most vulnerable to that, because that is a key component of this combo here. We could potentially use Heim to become a 5 strength card and then swipe the Tuirseach Invader. That's not out of the question. I just wonder if that's maybe a little bit overkill here. I think we try to sneak on past with what we have down right now. And we're hoping that stealing one of our cards is not enough for our opponent to pass us in one card. They hopefully need to play a little bit more than that. And they realize they can't do it. We set up a wall and they could not breach it. Okay, so we'll go against a fellow Skellige player here, and we will go first. And let's see what we start off with. War of Clans is not great in round 1 when we're not going to have much in our graveyard. And on Craite Warrior, we also don't really want to have in our hands. And probably get rid of the next War of Clans as well. So I think we'll take this. Then, of course, going first is always tough, because there's always the chance that whatever we play could get stolen. But we have enough high-value cards here that if we play something that's a 7, pretty unlikely that they're going to throw down a 7 and steal this card. Okay. Playing Mantlet to give them some armor going forward. And we could, of course, steal this with a 4 power card of our own. Is tempting here. Let's do it. Shouldn't really matter which row, I don't think. We'll swipe you. And unfortunately, this is ending up in the range row, so it's not going to trigger its ability, I don't think. And we could even use our tactic to boot something up here to make it harder for them to steal them back, but I think we'll save that for now. And they're playing, yeah, 4 strength cards. They will swipe something back. Which one will it be? Okay, well, fortunately, at least, you won't be able to use the damage yet on that order ability, and we could swipe it back with another version of the Raiders. So, we'll take it. And, of course, now, well, with them having the long chip down, we will take some damage. But I think now that they've shown that they are willing and able to swipe some of those cards, let's boost one of them up, make it harder to steal. Okay, now the Runestone is interesting, because they have some flexibility here with what they can create, and may be able to more easily steal something that way. I think 4 strength definitely achievable, maybe even 3. It'll go 4. They're going to steal the Mantlet back, but ends up in their range row as well. Okay, let's see. How do we want to respond here? Because we do have a 4 strength card, but we don't really want to play the Boar right now because it doesn't have a lot of damage cards to get boosted. So what would we like to do instead in that case? We do have a lot of damage on the board here between our Raiders and our leader ability. So I deliberately did not use our leader ability earlier because mostly focusing on using that to set up a steal. But I'm thinking now, let's use some of this damage. Then if we Gerd, then let's hit you. It'll boost you up to a 5. And just basically start lowering them. And now that that is a 5, we've triggered its ability such that it gets boosted when it loses its armor. We can now steal it with the Tuirseach Invader. So that's tempting. Okay, and ooh, right? Didn't really expect you to play this guy, but you'll spawn in a Crow. And 5 strength won't steal anything on our side, so that's fine. Now, we could end up stealing you, or we could end up stealing your ship if we were to play our 5 strength card. But if we go 6 here, it will actually get boosted up all the way up to 11 because you have 3 damage cards right now, so Bloodthirst will go off. No cards to steal at that value, but I think we're just point slamming at this point. Covenant to steal at 7 strength. Well, we could turn around and play our version and swipe it back, or even get Gerd back. Even have a couple of options at 7 strength. Could do that 5-point swipe as well. Plenty of ways to steal here, just a matter of what our preference is. Go Covenant of Steel, speaking of that. And we'll take yours. And we do have our leader ability back. And, okay, we'll damage you, and that way we can guarantee that Tuirseach Invader will swipe your ship instead, because that has a little bit more long-term value. You're just going to spawn in a bunch of crows, which is a little strange. But, okay. Let's do the 5-point swipe. Okay, yeah, we had a pretty sizable lead there. We have played one more card than them, but we'll take the round 1 victory here. And we'll likely dry pass in round 2. Okay, so we drew into the Craite Invader. Let's dump you. Time is probably fine. Couple 7 strength cards. What's in our deck here? What could we potentially draw into? Skjall might not be bad. Hemdall as well. Sukrus, those are probably the ideal cards for us to get into. What would we dump to get one of those? Delirium is probably not what we were aiming for, though. So we will dry pass, and then we might end up getting rid of Delirium, depending on what we end up drawing into going into round 3. Because that's mostly there just to set up the other Bloodthirst units. And you'll go with Freya's Blessing, and I mean, this is basically just a throwaway card for you. So you'll take round 2, as expected. But it does mean we'll have last say in round 3, so that's quite alright. Okay, so we drew into Hemdall. That's useful. Sigrdrifa's Rite's not bad. Same with Sukrus. Just see, what would we get back with Sigrdrifa's Rite? Maybe Covenant of Steel? Actually not thrilled about that, but could probably make it work. I suppose with Arnaghad and Sukrus, that's not that bad. Delirium probably is still the weakest one we have remaining. If we could get Skjall instead, that's probably what we'd like to get. Let's give it a shot. Well, that's not what we want. Okay. Well, yeah, in the end, Delirium probably would have been preferable to what we ended up with, but I suppose still, all in all, decent hand. Okay, Crow Messenger to start off, and you'll summon your other one. And we do have a 4, yes. However, it's not really one that we want to play here, because the board needs a little bit more setup first. So, not a terribly straightforward play here, unless, say, we have something in our graveyard we'd like to summon now. Even then, not any great options. I suppose let's do it, though. And we'll just take Covenant of Steel, get it out there, in anticipation of ultimately getting Arnaghad and Sukrus out there, and we'll throw away our leader ability here, because we're not really looking to set up a steal on any of these, because we're not going to be able to do it. Okay, going with your scenario, you did play seemingly a few druids previously. A little surprised to see it in this game mode. I suppose given how you played some druids last round, that makes some sense. Do we destroy you now? Or do we start setting up Arnaghad plus Sukrus? Because that is going to become a pretty aggressive Crow Clan Preacher. And we certainly could seal it eventually. At 4, we can't really seal it yet, but if it gets boosted up to a 6, which will happen eventually, then we should be able to make it happen. Let's see. So you'll play the other one. Now they have their bonded ability. They'll get boosted by more, and then here's an alchemy card coming from the scenario, which boosts them both up to 6. Oh, but we actually don't have any 6 strength cards remaining. And you use, is that your leader ability there? To get another one in, which is clever timing. However, if we go Hemdall, we just make sure we go in the melee row, we will swipe one of your preachers. At least you're not getting bonded anymore. Ideally, we would have stolen one of them, maybe destroyed the other. But you did a pretty good quick play here. Now, what do we want to hit with our leader ability here? Suppose just the Crow Clan Preacher that you have left, and maybe if we combine a Gigascropian Decoction, we might be able to get you low enough that it is within sealing range eventually. But you may continue to play more alchemy cards and continue to boost that, so we'll see. Oh, you stole Sukrus. How dare you? We don't have any 6 strength units. We're probably not going to be able to steal it back. How rude. In that case, how would we like to approach this? Blood Eagle might be able to get the Death Blow to trigger, but possibility. His Scorpion is now becoming maybe a little bit out of range on the Crow Clan Preacher, but I mean, there's not really any better targets for it, besides, I suppose, maybe even Sukrus. But actually, what if we go Giant Boar, and then if we play you in the melee row, that will get boosted up to a 6. Ah, but we didn't swipe Sukrus back. Darn it. 50-50 chance. Unfortunately, we didn't get the card we wanted there. And you'll get more alchemy cards here. So yes, that Crow Clan Preacher will continue to get higher. You'll continue to flood the board with 2 strength cards, so we can't really do anything with, besides maybe trigger some death blow abilities. Gerd is now usable with his Adrenaline ability kicking in, but without Sukrus, that is less than ideal. Could still do it. We would not steal anything, but I think we throw it down here, and we'll just throw it behind Covenant to Steel to protect him a bit. He'll gain a tiny bit of armor, so I suppose there's something to be said for that. Then again, I suppose we probably should have hit something in advance here and would have gotten 1 more armor, but okay, so be it. Okay, you're just gonna do some boosting here. That is an alchemy card, so it will further boost your Crow Clan Preacher, but no opportunity to steal. Though, I don't know. With Gigascropian Decoction on, maybe even Sukrus at this point might start to approach range where we can set something up for a steal. I'm still not a great option at this stage. I suppose we'll hit Sukrus with the Decoction. Get him down to a 5, which is still lower than we'd like him to be, because we have, what, 7 is probably the easiest strength card for us to steal? Okay, you'll play your Sigrdrifa's Rite. Now, who are you bringing back? Are you going to steal one of our cards? Quite possibly. You brought Gerd back, but it is actually a summon, not a play, which means you did not trigger the sealing ability, so you did not get Hemdall. And now we can steal Gerd back, using some leader ability charges here, match up the strength. So that is the strength of our leader ability there, is picking and choosing when and where to match up strength with our opponent's units and units we have in our hand. You're going to banish something. Is that Hemdall, just for the 8 strength, which is a little strange, because, I mean, we did have a 9 strength Crow Clan Preacher, so you'd think if you're just going for the highest unit, you do that, but we can get the Death Blow to trigger here. I think we might want to just slam Skjall for the points. Alternatively, could we seal anything with any of these other options? I don't think you have any 7 strength cards remaining, so let's just go with Skjall. Yeah, looks like no 7 strengths we could have stolen, so we'll just throw Skjall down here. I guess we'll put him behind the defender, but that defender has been purified. Should still be safe. Oh, the Jurden, okay, in our melee row does reset us a bit. There's Arnaghad triggering. And we still have a lead here, so we're looking good. We have Heim, and tell you what, I think there is a creative way to use this. We'll play you, swap strength with Arnaghad, which will turn Heim into a 6, which means we can swipe Sukrus back, and then we'll just throw in our leader ability for good measure. And we'll take it. Okay, so we'll go against monsters here, and they will go first. And I think we probably do want to dump the Craite Warrior and potentially even a War of Clans as well. Because we aren't going to have many, if any, cards in our graveyard in round 1. So they'll use their leader ability to get a fruit out there. And ooh, this is a little tricky here. You're going to play a bunch of one card, or one power cards, and we can't steal them now unless we just play time, which totally defeats the purpose of it. I think what we want to do in that case is we need to be a little bit patient here, wait for these to get boosted, and then start playing some of our big cards and steal them then. So in that case, what we might want to do is play the Craite Raiders, and it won't steal anything, but we're hoping that as long as you don't take it from us, we can use this damage to set something up in the future. Alternatively, yeah, I'm not sure we have any great other options. So let's go with this. And then we could even deliberately either destroy the fruit or just lower the armor on the larva. Yes, we'll lower the armor. Okay, now you're going to destroy probably the fruit, right? Which is largely why I didn't opt to destroy it here, because it was pretty much just fodder. But this is interesting. So now you did have to sacrifice something to get an 8 strength unit, and we could turn right around and swipe that 8 strength unit from you if we were to play Gerd. We don't get a ton of value out of using his damage because you guys do still have armor on, unless if we say were to combine that with the Craite Raiders damage, which I think we would prefer to save that for a little bit here. Let's go with Gerd. Oh, actually, tell you what, Gerd will deal damage on deploy. That will drop you down to a 7, so we will not be able to steal you. We could then follow up next turn with the Dimun Pirate, and that could still do the trick, unless, of course, they change the amount of strength that you have here. But, well, what if we actually went on Craite Raiders, drop you down to a 6, and then, well, we don't really want to play Svanrige at the moment, because he will not trigger his Bloodthirst ability, so I think we do settle for this for now. And then we have some flexibility between Craite Raiders damage. We'll have Onslaught back next turn. We should be able to manipulate things enough to get the card we want to steal. Okay, you're playing Fuka, and yeah, this is unfortunate here. It's pretty easy to play a 4 strength card, and therefore pretty easy to steal a 4 strength card, and because we saved our order ability, you just turn around and used it on Gerd. I do not appreciate. That was the risk that we took. And you do have 2 units that are currently damaged. So if we were to damage 1 more, we could activate your Bloodthirst ability, and that would get you up to 11, which would mean a pretty huge steal, except, well, that's only if you have an 11 strength card to do the stealing from. And you don't right now. So I think we stick with our plan of focusing on stealing the Griffin here. And we could either do that with our Dimun Pirate or Covenant of Steel. And do we really need to protect anyone with the Defender ability? I'm not so sure that we do. We actually do kind of want to have something in our graveyard for War of Clans, so let's drop you here. We'll discard the other one, and then steal the Griffin. And then why don't we damage the Craite Raiders, and we still can't catch it at the moment when it's an 8, but if we can drop you 1 lower with a future Onslaught, then we could potentially steal you with Covenant of Steel. You're going to play 5 Strength Rot Fiend, won't steal anything. It will boost your Thrives, but we were kind of just waiting for that so that we could steal some of them. At this stage, we could swipe the Fuka if we were to play Sukrus. The problem is I'd like to save Sukrus for if and when we get Arnaghad, but that may not happen. He's not in our hand right now, so we may not be able to afford that luxury. I think we do just steal you now. So let's, or alternatively, we could even use Heim. Tell you what, let's use Heim. So this is a good opportunity to show you how this works. So we'll play you, and then we will deliberately make you 6 strength, because Gerd is damaged, and then in doing so, we get a 6 strength card, and steal the Fuka. It does mean we drop Gerd down to 1 strength, which is not great. We would ideally have done that to an opposing unit, but idea here was primarily just to steal the Fuka. Now, what will this turn into here? It will become 10 strength and deal some damage in the process. Now, 10 is not quite a fit for us when it comes to Svanrige, and we also don't have any damaged enemies anymore, so Bloodthirst definitely not going to trigger here. I think we do, in that case, hit the Craite Raiders with our Onslaught, and then follow up with Covenant of Steel to swipe you. So let's put you here, and then, I mean, maybe we put the Covenant of Steel in the melee row just to block Gerd in case they have something with Death Blow. Okay, and Tainted Ale, they could use to destroy something pretty quickly if they wanted to. They're going to save that up and use it similar to how we've been using the Onslaught and pick and choose which cards they want to steal. My guess is that is the case. And we could play 4 provision costs card from our deck. This, unfortunately, has more than 4 provisions. So, cannot do this right now. We could use Sigrdrifa's Rite for it. That'd be a 7 strength card, but still no 7 strength cards to steal. The timing isn't great there, and there's not really going to be a 7 strength card anytime soon, to tell you the truth. So I think we might need to pass on the steal, or, hold on, if we played you in the range row and activated it on Gerd, you'd get +7, moving up to 11, which is almost, or it's actually overshooting you. You are damaged by 4, which would get you up to an 8, which is still not a steal. I think we just go for the big play here. It's not going to steal anything, but it's big enough that I think it's still worthwhile. And you have, yes, a 10 strength play, which will steal a card from us, so that is less than ideal. That's a pretty big theft. And in some ways, they have a similar deck to us, in that they are also dropping some pretty tall units here. Okay, so Sigrdrifa's Rite still only gives us a 7 strength card, which still is not a great fit. 6 now does steal something, so there is something to be said for playing Sukrus, and even Svanrige right now, without his Bloodthirst ability triggering, would also be a 6, so we'd steal something here. So I think we go with either of these. The question is just which one do we like more long-term, which one would we like to save? I think we probably do go with Svanrige, because I don't think we're going to be getting his Bloodthirst to trigger, at least not in this round. So we'll play you, steal you, and then we might want to save the Onslaught for a future occasion in case there is a card that we need to change the power of in order to steal it with Sukrus. At the moment, it would be Intriga Larva. That would still work, but that might change. You're going Striga, which will deal, is it 4 damage? Do you have dominance right now? You do not. But it is enough to steal. And, okay, it is still safe to play Sukrus now and steal your Larva. I think we probably will do here. The one thing that I don't love about that is that ideally we would wait 1 turn, hopefully get you to trigger your Thrive on both this and this, so this would become a 6, this would become a 7. We could use Sigrdrifa's Rite, bring our 7 from our graveyard, steal this, and then play Sukrus to steal the 6 here. But I don't think the timing is quite going to work there, so I think we do need to just settle for what we have right now and play Sukrus and swipe you. So let's play Sukrus next to our defender and shut off you from dealing any damage to anything in this row. And then I think in that case, yeah, we are probably just looking to deal some damage to something with our Onslaught and don't need to worry too much about getting the card that we're going to try to steal. Okay, well, you have a 12 strength card to play here, which does, in fact, trigger your Thrive. All we can do at this point is go with Sigrdrifa's Rite, and War of Clans deals 2 damage, but we don't have a 4 provision cost card in our graveyard right now, so this doesn't do us much good. So, alright, do we even want to do that right now? Well, we were in a bit of a pickle there, but they decided they couldn't handle it, so they forfeited. So there's a look at a Skellige deck for the new Irresistible Attraction seasonal event that apparently everyone is too afraid to play against. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other factions and which other cards you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.